Yeah, so my name is Paul. I'm with Proshop ERP, and let me go ahead and share my screen. Thank you. All right, well, thanks again for letting us be here. This is a super fun event. So I'm super pleased to have one of our very first customer ever with us today, and sharing some of the inspiration that actually decided, why we decided to start Proshop in the first place. So, and some of the results they've gotten. So let's take a peek. We're just gonna talk a little bit about our origin, then Rich will tell us about Cellthera Marine, and then we'll get into the recipe and the formula for how they cut their machine setup times by 50%. So the history of Proshop actually started in '97. We started a machine shop right out of college here in Bellingham, Washington, called ProCNC, and just funded by a second mortgage. Haas VF4 was our first machine, tiny little 2,000 square foot space, and just started knocking on doors, including Cellthera Marine's doors. So they were actually one of our very first machine shop customers. By the year 2000, we were already outgrowing the sort of homegrown Excel system we had started, and we started looking for ERP and shop management software, and quite honestly just couldn't find anything that we liked. So we decided to hire a software developer and just build something totally for ourselves, right, just to help our own shop. We called it Proshop, and we started that in 2000. And so for the next several years, we grew, kept adding features, kept adding modules. And then one day, Rich said, hey, I could use some extra money. I'm trying to build a sports court in my backyard for my kids. And my wife says I have to earn it somewhere else. So he came and worked for us on Friday on the weekends and started using Proshop. And so after a few months, he went back to the owners of his company and said, hey, you know what? They have this pretty cool software, and asked us about it if we'd be willing to sell it. It took a little while because we weren't in the software business. So anyway, so they became a customer in 2008, and really it was their results that inspired us to get out of the machine shop business and go full-time into software. So we did that in 2014. And so we'll talk a little bit more about some of the results that they actually got, but really kind of off the chart stuff. And we've been having a heck of a fun time building Proshop for the last few years since we've switched fully into software. So let's learn about Rich and tell us, introduce yourself, Rich, and tell us a little bit about Self.
Hi, thanks, Paul. Yeah, Cellthera Marine, we're a small aerospace hardware manufacturing company. We opened our doors in 1959 out of the garage of our founders. We were in Seattle for many years, outgrew that business, and we moved north of Seattle to where our current location is now, and we've been here for the last 30 years. Like I said, we're a small aerospace manufacturing company. We make hinges, latches, decorative trim throughout all sorts of platforms of aerospace, and we do other yacht and also bus lines. I started here about 30 years ago. I was going to school to be an accountant, needed a job, so I came in as an assembler. They asked if they bought a CNC and needed someone to run it. I was pretty good at numbers, and it intrigued me. Assembling parts really wasn't my forte. So I learned machining on the fly, self-taught, and with that I grew a passion for what machining was, and changed my line of work to more of the engineering business side of things. And through that time grew and looked for efficiencies in the machine shop way. It was once Paul, I had the opportunity to work with Paul up at ProCNC, to where I really saw how inefficient we were down at Cellthera Marine with the fact that they were using Proshop. Somewhat joking, I asked about, if they would ever want to install it at our place. A few years have passed. I got a call. They said, I think we are interested in taking you up on that offer. And so we put it in 2008, and it's been arguably one of the most brilliant moves Cellthera Marine has ever made.
Well, thank you, Rich. Appreciate it. Let's dig into some of the details of that. So we're going to outline sort of each of the things one by one, but there were sort of four main things that really contributed to those long setup times, right? So you had a paper-based ERP and paper setup sheets. You didn't have any really great organization for your cutting tools. Your fixtures were a little bit chaotic and disorganized, and you weren't doing a lot of preventative maintenance. And those four things, maybe and others, contributed to a lot of those long setup times.
Yeah, absolutely. That's you've hit it right on the nose. That's huge contributors for sure.
So let's, yeah, if you would share some of the specific details, that would be great.
Yeah, so paper travelers. We used to basically have jobs that would require these travelers. They would have to follow the jobs throughout our shop into inspection, and then eventually get stored for documentation, record retention. And they get stored in the boxes labeled by years and with a brief description of, oh, this is, shop travelers or POs or whatever it was. What would happen is we would often have to do first articles or need to pull these records, and we'd go to pull them and we'd find that either they were misplaced, lost, damaged, or just out of date, like the fact that the knowledge didn't get transferred over. So if something had changed, it came down to just really tribal knowledge to deal with setups in the current because we didn't have the correct documentation stored.
And then you had your setup sheets, I think in binders, is that right? That were just stored next to each machine and often not updated with the current information?
So setup sheets were in binders at different areas around the shop. We tried to keep them near their machine centers, but often what would happen is someone would make a change, and it was a great change, but they wouldn't update the setup sheet. So unfortunately, when you would pull that setup sheet again, it would lead to going back to the old way, not foreseeing the changes. And maybe that meant that, the program had been changed. So you were just working with either the wrong tooling or wrong programs or whatever. And so therefore it meant having to go back and refiguring out what didn't get documented.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Really common. All right. Let's talk a little bit about cutting tools. Tell us what you had going on there.
Yeah. So cutting tools, we thought we were somewhat organized. We would store them in little bins and trays and shelves, and we'd put like radius cutters somewhat together, not necessarily organizing them out by size or drills or any of it. But the bigger problem was the shortages. We had no inventory control of our tools, so therefore it led to quite often we didn't have the available tool to complete the job. So what did that mean? Well, the machine either sat or we would have to reschedule that resource, put a different job on, or if it was we had to get the job done, then often it meant reprogramming with a different tool to complete the job. So therefore, the inefficiencies of not having inventory control of tooling was just brutal. And it happened all the time. It's not like this was.
Yeah, so paint the picture. A guy walks up to a machine, pulls out the binder to look for the setup sheet and starts going to find tools, and fixturing and stuff, and just can't find a tool that was called out on the setup sheet. Is that basically what happened?
Exactly. Yeah. And we ran pretty just-in-time type of programs and flow of work. So therefore, quite often it meant, hey, the machine can't just sit, and we can't reschedule it as well. So quite often it led to reprogramming, and as we know, that takes up a ton of time and resources, and then inefficiencies on getting the job done.
Of course. Yeah, reproving out new code and everything.
Yep.
Let's talk about fixtures. You sent us these beautiful pictures of vice jaw full, drawers.
Yeah, so we thought we were really smart um, with how we were doing things. It was like, oh, vice jaws, just put them in these drawers. Well, what often would happen is vice jaws would fall in there, and then little fixtures that weren't vice jaws, and we would spend time searching for these fixtures. We didn't have them individually located at a specific spot. So, you'd go to the vice jaw area and you'd search through all these vice jaws, and then lo and behold, you can't find them. I mean, they weren't there to the best of your abilities of looking for them. And so what do? You spend the time, you would remanufacture new fixtures or vice jaws or whatever it had to be. And you'd get the job ran, you'd be like, all right, okay, we have these, we'll load them and store them in the vice jaw thing. And you go to open up the drawer, and what do you find? Your original vice jaws. And it's like, oh, look at that. So yeah, it was another area that was just painful.
And it looks like you maybe were like writing part numbers or job numbers with Sharpies.
Yep.
What you did?
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. Well, let's get into lack of preventative maintenance. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So we had no preventative maintenance plan set up at all. It was basically if a machine sounded funny or broke down, or we realized we hadn't lubed it maybe in a while, or lo and behold, the coolant smelled of rancid. It was like, oh, we need to deal with it. And so unfortunately, that usually led to the fact that a machine would have to be down for, several hours, maybe several days. So it would then mean, okay, you've had this machine set up, you're going to have to tear it down, move it over to this other resource, reset it back up, and reschedule around to fit this machine in. And the fact that Proshop has a better system, saves those inefficiencies.
Right on. All right, so that kind of set the stage for why things were taking so long. Let us talk about some of the things that you did. I'll sort of highlight them here, and then Rich, you can explain each of them one by one. So you focused a lot more on better upfront planning, which helped you make sure you got rid of the firefighting later. Better documentation of setups, a nice system for organizing and maybe more importantly, pre-ordering your tools, making sure your fixtures were organized and kitted and prepped in advance. And then of course, as I always talk about, eliminating those paper travelers and setup sheets. So let's dig into each of those and tell us a little bit about what you guys did there.
Yeah, so with the planning, we basically could fully lay out a job and have visibility of understanding exactly what is going to happen throughout the flow of the job. And the biggest thing, without a piece of paper in front of you. And so if something were to change within the planning step, it wasn't, hey, you have to deal with redoing all these papers and folders and grabbing all this stuff. It was basically put in the step that you need. You wouldn't have to eliminate the old step, just don't include it in this run, and then document it correctly, and it was there. I mean, and it's there always. And so the efficiencies of the setups and the planning is just instantaneously visible and very quick.
And I think you told us that you got about essentially 400% higher throughput with your planning because you subsequently doubled your business and went down to only one planner instead of two.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, you could easily keep up with everything. Nice. So yeah, importance of planning, whether it's in an ERP or whatever, put a little more effort up front and you'll reap huge benefits later. Tell us about how your setups and your documentation for those changed.
Yeah, so setups, this is a huge area. As you can see, simple pictures that tells you exactly how the part is going to be in the machine. So you'll know what to look for, where your datum 0 is, how you're going to fixture it, whether it's, you're going to use a torque wrench, what rev of G code you're using for this specific machine, for the so everything is just really clean, easy to understand, and located basically in one area for the operators to just be able to grab and click and go.
Really importantly, eliminating tribal knowledge, right? Everyone can add pictures, get it in there. So yeah, and then tell us about tools.
Yeah, so tools, another huge thing is instead of everything just kind of thrown into bin, they're actually numbered individually, and it shows you a picture of what they are, where they're located, how many are in the shop, how many are in machines, how many are on order, and then basically how many, your safety stock, everything is just laid out, and the purchaser basically just is able to check a dashboard and say, hey, these 6 tools need to get ordered at whatever specific quantity to meet the scheduled demands. And so it's not, we're just never waiting on tooling. It's always there for us.
And then one of the keys that's not maybe obvious here is don't organize them by type. Organize them by part number, right? You don't put all your 1/8 inch rad, 1/2 inch end mills together, because that's not a scalable system, and they'll get confused and all that kind of stuff. All right, just to make sure we keep on schedule, tell us a little bit about fixture storage and how that changed.
Yeah, so fixture storage is real clean and simple now. It is basically, it has a home, it has a location, it has a fixture number, and the great thing is there's pictures of what the fixtures look like. There's jobs that they run or part numbers. So if you have a fixture that does 10 different part numbers, it's listed there. You know exactly where to go get it. You can see the last time it was used. If it's in operation on a machine, you'll know that in case potentially you have to, you need it on another machine resource at the same time. So it's clean, simple, and extremely efficient.
Awesome. All right, and lastly, but definitely not least, getting rid of those paper travelers.
Yeah, so paper travelers, it was a mess for us. We, like Paul had mentioned, we had people that basically ran the shop floor that followed these travelers around to make sure jobs were getting done at specific targets, and are they being updated and whatnot. So the fact that anything is instantaneously from your desktop or laptop or anything, I can basically see everything at any given time from one terminal, and it's just brilliant.
I think you told us you had 2 full-time expediters.
We did.
Proshop. Yep, and you completely eliminated those positions.
Yep.
Yep. Nice. That's all right. So here's, so these numbers here are really some of the things that inspired us to decide to go ahead and take Proshop to the market. So those setup reductions, your incredible throughput and planning, and of course those setup reductions and everything else translated into you being on time a lot more often, right?
Yeah, it's one of the things that that's been our biggest thing. Our on-time delivery numbers, we used to run at about a 50% on-time delivery to our customers. Since Proshop, we run in the high 90s consistently.
Nice. And then, of course, last but not least, Rich sent us this picture recently. They're going through a major initiative to shred all those old boxes.
Yeah, we finally, being in the aerospace, all of our data now that we need to keep is in Proshop. So we are shredding, and we've estimated we've shredded about 3 million pages of paper and have gained that real estate back to be able to use that for projects coming up. So we're really excited about being able to finally get rid of those boxes and just have everything digital within the Proshop system.
Awesome. That's a lot of paper, 3 million pages.
Yeah.
Can't even imagine. All right. Well, thank you, Rich. Thank you all so much. If you'd like to reach out to us, Rich is happy to answer questions. He also outsources a lot of machining work. So I don't know if you're looking for suppliers right now, but I just said it out loud. So
yeah.
Anyway, and then of course you want to reach out to us. There's a way you can reach out to us.